Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, August 13th. I'd like to call the Board of Water Commissioners meeting to order at 4 p.m. The first, we will table the minutes until the next meeting of the July 30th meeting. So the first appointment would be Kristen Berger with updates on the Main Street Water Project and discussions on the new proposed well site.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, so for the water main project, the crew's been working on the north side of the Jones River. They've made it from the tie-in past or approaching Linden, around Linden. They went past Landing last week, and they've been this week. They've been working from Landing to Linden, thank you. Knew it was
L something.
L, and there was a D and an N in there, yeah. So today they did run into an unmarked 2-inch gas line. So luckily no injuries occurred with that. Gas company came out, shut off the line, did whatever they needed to do to be able to restore service. Yeah, there was marked an abandoned line, and that's what the contractor found and located. There's no way for them to tell them from the outside of the pipe whether it's abandoned or not. So they carefully hand dug around that line that was marked as being the gas line, and then they took a scoop that looked like it would be in a safe spot and ripped the active line that wasn't marked, that was next to it. So just kind of similar to some of the other challenges we've found on the project with records of the buried utility work on Main Street being less than optimum. So it seems like,
Are we able to update the records as we're discovering these things?
Yeah, so Matt's been recording things that he's found, observed as being different from what's on the survey and what's different from markings from the utility. So we'll at least incorporate that into the set at the end of the job for this project. So hopefully the gas company is making their own records and notes on what's changed as when things like that come up. But
now, does that wind up costing us money?
It was
slow down or something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely like lost time for the contractor. So
I'm wondering can we back charge the gas company for that?
Yeah, that's definitely worth pursuing because it wasn't marked out properly. So there is, lost time for
They
that.
didn't know it was there, or they just forgot it was there, or
it wasn't marked.
Yeah.
So like they marked the abandoned line.
Yeah.
So they didn't have records on that it was replaced or something. I don't know. I can't explain that.
The other problem you have is the gas company now uses non-metallic pipe, so there's no way of tracing it unless there's a tracing wire on it, and generally the gas company doesn't install that either.
They had a tracer wire on.
Yeah.
I was there when the strike happened, so no, it was tracer wire. No tape on it. But.
So when they did the survey before, that wasn't found?
Well, they had to dig safe it more recently. So the survey is kind of like a separate thing.
Yeah.
Before the contractor went out, regardless of what we show on the survey, they dig safe it, and the utilities come out and they paint and they mark it where it is.
Based on the records, or they actually are actively searching for it?
Combination.
Yeah. So they didn't.
So they, didn't mark it out correctly. So, and it's almost like you're better off like having it marked out incorrectly when there's nothing else there, because then the guys say, wait a second, we didn't find something where it was marked out. So we'll be careful digging to try to find it. In this case, they did find something and they thought they were in the clear. So that's not the case. So that slowed things down for the afternoon. Then they should be able to pick up tomorrow and keep going. And still, the hope is that they can make it down to the end of the project, which is on Main Street, just past Summer Street, going down a couple house or so. Hopefully that can get done this week, because this is just Tuesday, so they just have to make it a little stretch. The part that they have to cross from where they are on Main Street in the northbound lane, they have to cross Summer Street to get onto the other, or continue on Main Street essentially. That will take some juggling with the traffic, and that crossing right there could end up taking a day or two just in itself. That'll slow them down a little bit. But still, hopefully they can get by Friday
Are we still on
afternoon.
schedule?
They are just tracking to be able to hopefully start services on this portion on the south side of the Jones River next week. They did pressure test that section, chlorinated it. The bacteria test came back with total chloroform negative, but a little bit of background. So there's something there. Chris had them flush the line and then resample it. So hopefully that sample comes back and it's still low. If that count goes up significantly, then they'll have to re-chlorinate again. That'll slow things down. So they won't be able to start their services till we get that satisfactory test result. But we'll know that. The lab should be able to turn that test around in a couple days.
Yeah, 24 hours usually we can turn around.
We'll know that this week.
The piece
that's
that
gonna
they
be
haven't
cool.
done yet on that road.
Yeah.
When's that gonna get?
That will be done after the services need to be connected to the new main.
Okay, then.
And then they can
okay.
do that piece.
All right. No, I'm remembering now.
Yeah, so that could end up pushing into that last week in August when school starts back. But that little section should only be like, at most 2 days, they have to deal with that. So if they are able to get their services done next week and then do that piece, it would be possibly a couple days into that last week in August. They'll still have to come back and do the services on this side of the bridge. That'll probably be in September before they do it. But that at least will be with the smaller excavator. They won't be taking up as much room on the road. So, and they might be limited then at that point to working 9 to 3 because of the school traffic. But at least we've gotten the bulk of the work done. So it's close, but it is a little bit behind schedule with some of the hiccups that we've had and having to kind of pivot and adjust a few spots. So I think all in all, though, it's given everything that all the unknowns that have popped up. They're not too far behind where we were hoping.
Very good.
The other thing was for we talked last meeting about the cost, so I wanted to update you. They have been doing fine with just the police details. Those have been filled each day since we last met. And they have not had the certified flaggers out since August 1st was the first day. They were just the police detail, no flaggers. So that's helping to kind of control some of that cost overrun that we were projecting for the police detail and the flaggers to be coupled up, which is helpful.
And we're pretty confident that we're gonna have police details. for the rest of the
Yes, the police department made some adjustments and they brought on a couple of guys that are dedicated to just doing the details on this project. They made it more attractive to them from what I hear for the hourly pay, so that encourages them to show up and
The detours make it much easier
Yeah,
for them to.
the detours, and it's the same 3 guys that have been out for the details, so that helps too with the continuity. They have kind of a rhythm going with what they have to do. They have the details located at the 2 ends of the road closures, and then one detail with the crew to deal with whoever might,
And I've been going through there a number of times and it seems pretty simple. It's not, no backup traffic of any consequence.
That's great. Yeah.
Even today with the gas man, there was a lot more traffic on up here, but it was manageable.
Yeah. Yeah, that seems to have been going well, and, we haven't been getting complaints from, other departments, so. The other thing was for the final finished paving, we talked at the last meeting about this, trying to minimize waste, the asphalt. So Chris and I both talked with the Mass DOT inspector, and he said that 72-hour time limit between when the milling happens and the paving happens, he said, well, that's just to keep people from leaving it milled for like months.
Mhm.
And like, okay, so reasonably then, could we do it the way that we're proposing with come in mill, then do the trench repair with 5 inches of asphalt, and then come through and pave with 2 inches.
Mhm.
And it seems like, yes, in his mind, yes.
But you got
Verbally.
nothing in writing yet.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, that sounds great. So, but yeah, that makes me little like, I really think we need something that's approved. So, and that my next step, I'll talk to the contractor about how much time would it take if we do it like this, so we don't have to waste all that asphalt. And then we'll get a better feel for, okay, we can go to DOT and say, this is the time we're requesting. We want something in writing that says that. Because my fear is the DOT inspector's here today. Is he gonna be there in a few months? Or if it's next spring, when, this might push in the spring.
Or it's a different
You don't
DOT
know.
inspector.
Yeah, you just don't know. So I,
So you gotta get something in writing.
yeah, I would much prefer to have something in writing than, yeah.
And hopefully
Yeah.
CC can give you a window that isn't 72 hours, but isn't 72 days.
Yeah,
Somewhere in
yeah,
between,
something
you know?
reasonable.
Yeah.
I agree. The other thing with that project, the compaction testing has been coming in, meeting the requirements, so then I've uploaded those results to DOT so they can see that as well. What that means is there should be less trench settling, so hopefully fewer issues from between now and when the finished paving gets done.
It's bumpy
You
but
know.
passable.
Yeah, and as long as if there's spots that are sagging, like when they did that test pit down by Brook Street,
Yeah.
that obviously didn't have the right compaction and the compaction testing, so that settled in a strange way. With the compaction testing, the hope is that that won't be happening along the trench, but if it does, the contractor has to come back and fill and bring back up the pavement until, as long as they've got it bonded. So even once the finished
Yeah.
paving's done, if there's issues with that, they have the bond on that pavement, so they'll have to come back to address those issues. So in terms of the remaining contingency, it's looking a little better than when we last met. But as you know, there's always new things that pop up, so, but we're still okay with the contingency that's there. So I think so far, we had the rocky start with the project, but it's been, much smoother, even with today's issue. It's
I want to thank you
smoother.
for your recommendations from the beginning, because had we gone down another path, we would be in some degree of turmoil right
Yeah.
now. And the recommendation you made, which was a conservative recommendation, proved to be necessary. So
Yeah,
thanks.
yeah, one less stress, not having to be worried about where we're finding extra money. Yeah, absolutely. So I appreciate that too. The other projects, the new well, I went through the RFP that the town had issued for the general engineering services. I thought that was a good place to start since it was their template. And I marked things up, highlighted it, and then drafted up a specific scope of services that would be for the well and the pump station project. I geared it towards design and permitting, since trying to get a handle on like bid and construction when there's nothing really designed yet would be a little bit difficult for the consultants that would be responding to this. Plus, it's a few years now. So I think the better thing is to try to just say, okay, we want for the well, need to get through pump testing, design and permitting, and then for the pump station, chemical feed facility to do the design and permitting for that, and give budgets for those services. So that's what I sent to Chris and Stacy, and I don't know if they provided you with copies to look at, but
I did not.
okay.
I did not. I can. Sorry. Do you have copies, Chris?
I
Or do
have
you
one
want me to
copy.
Give a copy and a
So you could go through that, and then once you guys are satisfied with that, would go up to the town hall and they could finalize it. Some dates to get it
I
out
would like to
there.
get, again, this time is of the essence because we're limiting business, we're limiting people's ability to construct their homes, so.
Yeah, and at least this way, you have a chance of now getting, the design and permitting costs in for the special town meeting to be able to vote on that. So I would still give the, RFP like a 4-week window from when it's advertised to when it's due, knowing how busy people are. You don't want them to like say, no, we don't have time to deal with that. So 4 weeks is enough time for them to look at it.
Yeah,
And
should give us
put
some time to
something
pick
together.
somebody before we're looking at it.
yeah, so that if it can get out there for, say, similar time frame of that first week in September, you can have to do at the end of September, and then do that decision making. I don't know if that gives you enough time before, if the special is in November,
November.
that would give you the month of October to review, interview people, and
And we've done this before, in fairly short period.
I think it's gonna take some time, but depending on the number of, respondents you get to the, queue,
yeah,
to do it and do it correctly, you're gonna take some time to look at each one and then, interview the ones that, are at least, reasonably, concise with, with what we're asking for. And that's assuming that, we can get town hall to turn it around rather quickly so that we can get it out to proponents, really in September.
yeah, if not, then we'll just have to carry like a budget number that is comfortable.
We gotta get the money at the special
Yeah.
meeting Saturday.
And
That's
but you're also,
essential.
you're also gonna have to, at the special, at least have a ballpark figure on actual construction costs.
Yeah.
So we're gonna interview the design firms, that's what's gonna happen with these, that's.
Yeah, I remember last time we did it, there were, I think we went into 5 or 6. Narrowed it down to 3, and it wasn't as hard as I thought it was.
Yeah, I had started to pull together a number 4 construction based on a project that was completed, very similar style pump station, done down on the Cape 2 years ago. So between that and other treatment plant projects that are a little bit different from the well pump station, at least keeping a feel for where the construction costs are coming in. So you'll be able to have a number for the special town meeting. It'd just be nice to have the designer be able to, okay, yeah, that number looks good.
I'm not sure, given the timeframe that, a design firm will be able to come up with that solid number, come in November.
But a ballpark figure, or at least we can inform people of what potential we're looking forward to going forward.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what you need to do when we're at the special, getting the money for the design.
worst case, you just get the money for the design special, and then the spring meeting, you'll be able to get the construction number better locked down, so that would be a
Would we
fallback.
lose any time if we had to wait for that? Because from the special until the annual, you got so much else to do that it's not gonna hold it.
All they could get done between that time frame would be to do, they need to do pre-pump the test wells that's out there. Pre-pump it just to verify the conditions since the work was done in 2018. Redo the water quality testing. Make sure they're testing for everything that's required today and not just after 2018. So they have to do that. And then they have to put together paperwork for a site examination from SDEP, before they can do like a bigger diameter test well. So the ones that are out there now are smaller diameter test wells. They want to do like an 8-inch diameter test well. And before you can do that, you have to get Mass DEP's approval. So you have to get them out for that site examination. They come out, they look at it in the field, then they can approve that. And then that 8-inch diameter test well has to get installed. That work I'm just thinking like from November through the spring meeting, it might be possible that you could get that 8-inch diameter test well installed. But that's not like the big cost, it's not like the same cost as doing the full well itself. So we could make sure that there's enough money in the,
That's kind of
special
where
meeting.
we're heading, whatever's gonna take place from the special to the annual. Whatever can take place, if we make sure we budget for that when we go to the special, then I don't have a problem with it.
I think that's all they'd be able
Well,
to accomplish.
even the question of exactly where that test well needs to be, because we've talked at least preliminarily of whether or not there is the ability to find 2 well locations on that property, so that may be shifting somewhat that lower location, the prime location. we're talking about.
Yeah, we,
Question,
at the last meeting, looked at that map that showed where the test well work was previously done is salt enough on the property. That would still give you the ability to
Okay,
put
yeah.
something else that the elevations change, so on the northern part of that property, the elevations go up. So it would end up being, a future well might end up having to be, it was 20 to 40 feet difference in
Deeper.
elevation, yeah.
And I'm not all that troubled by that, because the more feet, the cleaner the water's likely to be, because there's a lot of opportunity.
Yes and no.
Yeah, right, it's a little bit closer to 44,
Yeah.
and yeah, you never know. But at least it leaves those options open.
Yeah.
So, but I think that's as far as you'd be able to get before the spring meeting, just if you could, that would be a good accomplishment, if you could get that.
Then what, then
8
that's all
inch
we'll
in.
ask for at this special then, so that we can get to that point.
Yeah, and they'll be, once you get past that point, then starting to do the water management act permitting for that well, that's the new source approval process, that takes some time to get through that. So before you can even get your permanent well in, and that new source approval process takes about a year. So it'll be a long time that you're in this permitting process. And during that permitting time, though, it's a good opportunity to say, okay, let's get the design for the pump station done. And so once we have approvals lined up, get everything out to bid at that point and keep it moving as quick. So keeping those concurrent paths happening will help expedite the project. The next one is the Chapel Pond well cleaning. That I sent a draft of those specifications to Chris and Stacy. They sent those up to the town hall. Town council reviewed. We just got back comments earlier this afternoon. So I'll incorporate those and then incorporate replacing the actual pump itself, just in case that needs to be done. And then we'll be able to get that out to bid. So the plan is to have that advertised on September 4th, that's a Wednesday, and have the bids due September 19th, which is a Thursday, and then you guys would be meeting on September 24th, a few days later, so you'd be able to vote to award and get that fast track. I know Chris really wants to get this done as soon as possible. Due to the
makes sense.
capacity that's been lost.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
So that's where we are with that one.
Thank you.
That's what I have.
Next on the agenda is the water superintendent.
So, Bud and I attended a ZBA meeting, August 7th, in regards to, proposed projects at the old junkyard, but through all the concrete, excavating, there was some comments back and forth with concerns with the location of a community leach field to water department property up there. Nitrate loading, they did say that this is a pretty complex leach field with minimizes nitrate loading and everything, so there was a lot of discussion back and forth, some frustration from the proposed developer. And the ZBA decided to take no action until they had a chance to get together, meet up, with some conditions to present to the developer, so.
One comment I'll make is I think that, in any future projects such as this, we need to make sure that we are upfront, forthright, and in writing to DBA, planning board, whatever it is. There seem to be some insinuations that we did not, as the department, respond to requests for information from either the developer, the ZBA, or the planning board. And since we didn't have anything in writing that I could rely on, I basically had to say, the well site is a well site that is potentially for future use. And, it's been the water department's property for a long time as such, and should be taken into account. I'm not sure the ZBA was really that much in tune with what I was saying. Again, I was concerned about the loading of this community leach field, because the way they've got it designed is each individual home will have its own well, will have its own septic system, but there will be a community leach field that will be force pumped from each of the 42 units, I think it is, the leach field, which is somewhat upstream of where, our potential well site could be. And that's why, I just felt that we were sort of, behind the scenes too far. And I think in the future, if something like that comes in, the board needs to make sure that it's responding timely and in writing, that nothing is done strictly by word of mouth, or, that it's in writing, so it's there for whoever is sitting in these chairs in the future.
To add to that, the original set of plans showed separate individual septic systems, complete septic systems on their lots. That was the only plan that I had seen. He revised the plan, cut the number of units in half, and that's went into the shared leach field that I never saw. We never saw that revised set of plans. We had a meeting at the town hall. It was an in-house meeting that was the planning, Val from planning, Jason, Paul Basley, kind of addressed concerns, and that was with individual septic systems. At the time, it wasn't much of a concern because it was spread out. But now with the leach field, it would be right adjacent to the water town property.
But what I'm saying is, you had an in-house meeting where a bunch of people discussed something. There was nothing that this board or you could refer to as far as a piece of paper that referred to exactly what we talked about, that there were individual systems, that now it's changed to that. This was, and I can understand the desire to keep an open flow of discussions, but when something like this comes up and now we're sitting before ZBA and I've got nothing other than historical information as far as where a future oil site may be. And, we've got nothing, and you've got the developer saying, the water department never responded to us.
The information was never passed on to us to respond to, so we had nothing to respond to because we didn't receive anything from the planning department or the building department in regards to the altered plans.
What we should be doing is, once you had that meeting with them, you should have come back, put something in writing so that, we had a document that we could follow.
I did. I have it's a statement, an email that I had sent back to the planning board saying with the water moratorium, there'd be no water connections provided to them.
But that never really, right, we couldn't provide water to them, but there was nothing in there that talked about the fact there was a future well site that may be impacted either by the individual wells and septic systems or by the combined. So all of a sudden, I'm standing there sort of, telling people that we've got a well site, potential future well site, and no one's really aware of any of the discussions that have gone on. I just felt that, had we had something from the beginning that talked about that future well site, forgetting about whether we could supply water or not, that future well site would potentially impacted whether it was an individual septic system for 42 units, or as it turned out, a combined leach field. I just want, you know, all I'm saying is in the future, for whoever's sitting in this board, they need to have the documentation that they need so that they can go before, you know, the zoning board of appeals and say, we presented this back at the very beginning, you know, of the concerns that there was a well site there that may be impacted. And whatever happens as it progresses along, we accept those changes, but we've at least identified to the planning board, to the developer, that in fact there is a concern that we have, both short term and long term.
Sure.
So, no, you know, it is what it is now. We'll see what the ZBA, you know, ultimately comes up with.
Is there an impingement if you have those wells in the leach field? If there was a current well there already, would they be able to do that?
It would be similar to the subdivision they put in off of South Street. They had to do extensive testing and monitoring and calculations and make sure it wasn't gonna be, because that is situated upstream of
Yeah.
Millgate Solar Pond, essentially South Street.
But you know, we don't know where we're going with it.
Yeah.
Where the ZBA is going with it right now.
Yeah.
Can I add something to the board's
If
discussion?
it has to do with.
With this, exactly.
Yeah.
I heard that you said that the ZBA wasn't taking any action, but at their next meeting, which is on the 16th, I think, they're gonna write conditions for the permit. And mostly what the guy was asking for was an earth removal permit to within 4 feet of the groundwater table, which I would hope that you would have something to say about too, especially given the history of the site as a junkyard. Because the 21E they submitted to the board was from 2019, and it was very weak as far as any of that kind of information. And generally speaking, my understanding from talking to an LSP is that that kind of data should be within a year of making a decision. So, you know, I personally have a lot of concern about it because I'm not sure I would want to be a resident there drinking that water if there's not a lot of you know, information that says, yeah, it's gonna be good and it's gonna be clean. And this is Spring Brook, which historically has been a very good water supply for trout and all kinds of things there, you know, so I respect a lot that you were able to get to the meeting and speak to it, and I appreciate it, so thanks.
You know, the fine does
But the
bring up,
conditions is gonna tell all,
Yeah.
and
fine does bring up the fact that they also wanted an earth removal permit to get within 4 feet of the
right,
water table, and they don't even have.
they don't need it.
They don't know what the water table is, so I think the one thing we should do is make sure we get a very specific letter to the ZBA dealing with determining what the water table is at that location, and absolutely requiring that they maintain a minimum of 10 feet between the water table and the top of whatever excavation it is.
Thank you.
So that was the gist of that. The next thing is the dehumidifier issue at the Grassy Hollow treatment plant. I've been in touch with Desert Air. They're able to get that compressor on a much faster timeline. I'm in touch with Northstar Refrigeration to facilitate that repair. Northstar Refrigeration is gonna kind of take the reins and deal with the handling of the whole warranty for the paperwork and stuff that's there, the licensed repair companies opposed to us that we don't know. So that's moving along. It's kind of moving along slowly, but we're making progress each day with getting it repaired. So that's about all I have.
I have one thing in there that came up. So the Water Smart program that we
Yep, sorry.
pay for, so it did not include the school program in the invoice that I processed to pay. I found out after I paid it that it didn't include the school program. We have not been in the school since COVID for a couple of reasons. COVID, and then the teacher that organized it with Water Smart retired, and so when she retired, everything else fell apart. So I reconnected people together between Water Smart and Kingston and Tamia, and They do want to bring the program back into school, the school wants them to come back in.
Good.
So in addition to that annual fee that we pay them, they want to come in and do a visit broken up into 2 days, and it's $500 a day. So that would be an additional $1,000 that they would have to bill us. I didn't, like I said, I missed it on the invoice that it said no schools. So I told them, wait before you schedule me to present it to you guys, whether you want this program to continue. I think it's a valuable program. Like I said, I wish I had known they were unable to get into the schools since COVID, because I would have interacted sooner, but I attended a Zoom meeting a couple weeks ago, with the organization in other towns and found out that we were one of the schools they have been in since 2020, and I was like, what? Because I thought we had been paying it all this time.
We got money within.
Yeah,
I move that we add $1,000 to the Water Smart program to
Okay.
fund the educational programs at the intermediate school.
okay,
I'll
because it
second
counts.
that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, I appreciate
Move
that.
second, so voted.
Sorry for that.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's okay.
Thank you for bringing that up. Do I have a motion on the letter to the ZBA? As far as dealing with,
Is it a specific issue or in general?
in general, but in particular, the, determine what the, water table is and requiring that they stay a minimum of 10 feet above the existing water table.
So moved.
Second,
Move second, so voted.
You gotta say so, right?
No. Be completely honest with you, no.
Okay.
So what was the motion?
The motion,
send a letter to the ZBA.
letter to the ZBA, saying that we, need them to determine what the water table is, and that there is to be no construction below 10 feet of the water table.
No excavation.
No excavation 10 feet above the water table.
Okay. Do they determine the water table or do we determine?
No, it's got that, I think it's,
The builder does?
The builder need to do the test and get the information to the water department so that we can review it.
Okay.
Can I interject? Just that it has to go to the Board of Health because they're gonna approve wells, right? The Board of Health approved the on-site wells, of which there are at least 18.
Yeah, I think it'd be the Board of Health for the permit and those.
Copy the board out?
Copy
Copy
the
to
board.
board. So,
That's it.
Okay.
No other business before the board? Motion to adjourn is in order.
I move to adjourn.